Hi, it's Dee Howlett, and today we've got Mark Williams, who's a targeted individual in the United Kingdom, who's going to tell us his history and the work he's been doing to support both himself and targeted people in the United Kingdom. So, first of all, Mark, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what's happened?
My name's Mark Williams, and I've been a TI for about 15 years that I'm aware of. I also do life coaching and healing work, wellness work with people for a living, and I'm an activist for this cause. Basically, the campaign in which I'm running is I've taken over the Targeted UK website, and I just wanted to tell people a little bit about what that entails, what I plan on doing with it, and where hopefully we can move as a community together with regards to that. So the campaigns, my whole idea behind the Targeted UK website is to make it a very active site with practical campaigns, which we can all do together. So if we have one shared vision and one shared goal and the same, should we say, campaigns or activities that we're doing, then we can actually make progress as a community together. And that's my idea behind when I was offered to take over the site. That's what I felt would be the best thing, because I've really felt that a lot of the campaigns in the community and a lot of things that people are doing are quite disjointed in terms of that someone over there might be doing one thing and someone over there might be doing something else. But what we really, really need to do is, I think, is join together on the same campaigns and go in the same direction. Otherwise, we're spreading ourselves too thin. So just to give you a brief overview, some of the campaigns which I plan to run. The site and the forum is experiencing a few technical issues. So if you're going on there and if you're unable to access the forum, firstly, please let me know. And secondly, they should be ironed out soon. But the campaigns which I'm going to be putting on there are going to be these campaigns. There may be a little bit of tweaking with these campaigns, which I will decide later. But basically, there's going to be a campaign of ICATOR, which is the lawsuit run by Melanie Vittram. And we're going to be putting updates on there and videos and really encouraging people to join and people to send their witness statements to Alison Smith, and also to not just do the witness statements, but send any evidence they may have, any credible, good evidence they may have to Alison Smith and or Melanie Vittram at ICATOR. There's going to be the mail merge and MPs campaign. Basically, I did a mail merge, which was the first of its kind, where I've basically emailed 6 times at least for the whole list, but also 14 or 15 times for the MPs and the human rights group. I emailed about, approximately by the end, it was about 20,000 contacts of some of the most, the best contacts in human rights, politics, police, construction, like military construction, including intelligence agencies, and also media as well, was one of the main branches that I emailed as part of the campaign. And these were some of the best contacts worldwide that I researched. It took me quite a long time. I also attained a few of these lists, or people gave me them. But it was a huge campaign, and I did that, and I am still doing that, but because of what I've been focused, I've had to take a small break on that. But I will be going back to that. So the whole idea was to get the message out to as many people in power as possible who have the power to actually help our cause. And the only slight issue with that is that while it's very good for raising general awareness, is in the UK in particular, we need people to actually go to their MP and raise this with their MP to back up what the mail merge campaign, the international mail merge campaign, has done, because these people, the MPs, need to have a physical, should we say, example of them put in front of them to make it real for them, that so they know it's real and so they take it seriously. But we need people, every TI in the UK, to be going to their MP and to be complaining about this, to back up the mail merge campaign. That's why I'm calling it the mail merge plus visit your MP campaign, because the two need to go together. You know, the general awareness of the campaign, the mail merge, plus actually people physically going to speak to their MP. And that's what will make it real to MPs. And then they'll be able to take action for that specific constituent. And then hopefully things will start to move forward. You know, that's really, really key, that people visit their MP. It's not, you know, that's the part which is going to be the convincer of these MPs.
Well, so one of the things I was going to ask there then, Mark, so, you know, genuinely right, I think if you send out more smaller messages to relevant people, your local MP, your local crime commissioner and your local, you know, authorities, on your website, are you going to put like a standard message or a template so we can get the same message to the MPs all the time? Because the one thing that would happen is if they get mixed messages and people saying we've been attacked by Satan or we've been attacked by aliens, as in extreme situations that these people suffer because of the torture they've been through, are you going to give support along that line?
That's really interesting. I mean, I could potentially, you know, give a guideline to that, potentially even a template. I mean, this is something I have talked about, you know, possibly more on Twitter, but just about in terms of writing in incredible ways, you know, that people are going to believe you. You know, there is a lot of stuff out there that is true, that is not, it's hard to believe, shall we say. So when we're talking to people like MPs or people in power specifically, we need to be very aware of their limitations of knowledge. Otherwise, we're just going to come across, they're just going to disregard what we're saying because it can be too much too soon. So even though these are things that I've talked about, it may be worthwhile me giving some guidelines, or maybe even perhaps the template. That could be something that could be on the site.
Yeah, so if you ever write to things like the Majesty, what you'll see is if you look at something along those lines, it gives you very detailed, this is how you address it, because, you know, like, so for an MP to pick up a mail, you will have to use the correct title. If you don't use the correct title, they won't even look at it. You know, so there is some you know, guidance that most probably people will look for there.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I think I just put their name and then MP, so and I did it as a mail merge. But yeah, I think that, you know, people really can't underestimate the power of, if every single TI went to their MP, we must be representing the whole of the UK. You know, every single constituency would have someone going to them, and then that's when they'd start speaking. You know, we need to take actual action in the real world and not on the keyboard. Not, you know, I mean, okay, raising general awareness with a post on Twitter and a post on Facebook every now and again, but it's not enough. We need targeted action. We need to be as efficient and organised and have the same game plan moving forward in the UK as you know, the same game plan moving together in a coordinated effort against their assaults on us.
Yeah, it's exactly that. What would your opinion be of writing, say, to big business leaders? I know people say, oh, let's write to Elon Musk or the people that's in charge of things like Facebook and Twitter and so on and so forth. Could you see any support coming out of large businesses like Rolls-Royce and BP? You know, some industry leaders that could help.
Interesting. I personally think businesses wouldn't listen generally, but there may be a few out there that would, because the problem is, and here's the catch-22 situation, is that you write to the MPs and they necessarily don't believe it, or they do believe it, but they're too scared to out it because they know the consequence of that, maybe them being targeted themselves. So they bury it in the hatchet and think, or they even just lie to themselves, say, well, that can't be real, because then they at least have that bias in their head where they can just disregard it. So the situation is a catch-22 situation where if the mass media is not saying it's true, then the MPs won't believe it. If science is not saying it's true, then they can just disregard it. So, but what happens and what's different is when you have like a sponsor out there or someone who's championing the cause, someone who's very, very famous like Elon Musk or Russell Brand or whoever, someone who's like maybe quite aware of these issues already and is already in a position of power, then all of a sudden, you know, it gets the public on our side and people start asking questions. You know, this is, for example, was my idea for another campaign, and I'm not totally set on this, but it was a get the, you know, break through to the media campaign, but not through sending emails, through actually getting contacts that you actually know. For example, I used to be part of a business group, so there may be some contacts that I know, for example, in ITV or BBC. And when you're referred, you have so much more credibility than when you're just writing a random email, because they don't know who you are, they don't know if you have credibility, they don't know whether they should believe you. You could just be some nutter. So the idea is that we work our way in via contacts. So you get a recommended or a referral by someone. You say, hey, I know this guy, he's a life coach, he's credible or whatever, he knows what he's talking about. You know, will you speak to him? He wants to talk to you about a few things, maybe without going into too much detail. And that's what people need to be doing, is networking their way into these situations. Instead of, you know, I'm saying the mail merge was great and it's fantastic, and we did get some pretty good responses. Ultimately, we need to be doing the work on a much more physical networking basis, where we try and get our referrals in, or we try and make contacts with people in the industry directly if we can. Referral is the shortcut into that. And so relating back to the MP, the mail merge and the MPP campaign, I thought, well, really, we need the media mass exposure, and we need them to say that link between the US diplomats and Havana syndrome and the general mass populace of civilians, which is happening to. So we need that almost breakthrough through the media first before the MPs will listen to us. So it's almost like I took a step back and said, we need to like network our way in, get on some of these like mass media, mainstream media news networks. And then once we've got that kind of behind us, and once they're starting to talk about this, saying, hey, is this happening to civilians globally? Or yes, this is happening to civilians globally, then the MPs will start to listen. So that was one of my ideas, was like either for myself or other people potentially networking to make contacts. So that was the second campaign I was running. The third was so we had the ICOTOR campaign, or the lawsuit campaign. We had the mail merge and go to your MP. The two are really, really essential. Every single TI listen to this, visits their MP, even if it feels uncomfortable. The third one was the media breakthrough campaign, which is the one I'm still thinking about. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, or whether I definitely am going to do it, but it's the idea I'm playing with at the moment. The other one was I have been doing a campaign on Twitter as well, where I'm encouraging the public or anyone or all the TIs to all write into 10 Downing Street and demand Boris Johnson change, put in much pressure. And if we could do this in sufficient numbers, it may just have an impact. You know, that was another, you know, thing that we could do to really put pressure on them and make it real. And then the other one was local protesting. So people actually going out into their towns and cities with leaflets, with banners, and actually with loudspeakers, and actually informing the public. Because just imagine like if every single TI in every single city, there must be at least every TI or 2 or 3 or 4 in the UK for every single major city, probably a lot more, and every town as well. If every single TI, even if they had to do it themselves, went back to their local community and spoke to people in public, then all of a sudden we would be getting the word out to the public in a way of, you know, because if somebody reads something on Facebook, it's just like, they can brush it off very easily and say, oh, that could just be a conspiracy theory. If you actually see someone in person shouting about it, and you can see the real expression on their face and how this is affecting them, you just know it's real from speaking to them, because that's coming across so strongly, and they're speaking about in incredible ways, professional ways, then that will leave such an impression on them that it will create a movement moving forward, and a real awareness of it in the community, rather than it just being an online thing, which it could be true, it could not be true, but I'm going to choose to ignore it. You
Yeah,
know, I think that's the difference, is getting into the real world as a physical thing.
yeah.
And I think that if we could all do that and go out locally and even go to our local councils and complain and just say, look, if we can get local council support as part of this, maybe as a side campaign to that, then all of a sudden these councils can start putting pressure on the government. We're working from the top down as well as the bottom up.
Have you got a direction or an objective? What's the end goal? So, if I was to put something in the pot, are you going to try and push, say, for a public inquiry to be carried out and it be carried out independently, like the Cave Report, the Williams Report, the Grey Report, as it'll be known soon with the Boris Johnson party situation? Have you got anything like that in mind where you want to try and get to?
That's really interesting. I mean, I hadn't actually thought of that in terms of a public inquiry. That's definitely something that I will look into. Basically, I have like another thing that the TI UK website is going to be. It's going to be a resource place, where I can put all the links. For example, one of the links I've got is goals of the targeted individual movement. And as part of this, I list specifically what the goals are and I break it down. So it's like mass government and public acknowledgement of this. TIs receiving justice in a legal sense, and through through a therapeutical sense, through a protection sense, through tracking frequency police, through shielding methods. So I'm taking every single area that is a burden or is torture to a TI, and I'm almost like reverse engineering it. So there's a solution for it. So basically, that the situation will be that we have we have a unit in this country that deals with people who complain of these assaults, that they are taken seriously, that they are given safe rooms, even if necessary. If it's that bad, then the person would be put into a safe room and would be helped, would also receive appropriate legal help due to the situation, because it's such an extreme situation that TIs need help in these situations. So they would receive legal help appropriately, which would take into account the fact of the situation, how hard they're finding everything. Things to do with defense mechanisms like shielding and potentially even specific jammers. Introducing some kind of these type of topics. But initially, it would be for them to discuss it in Parliament and pass laws that are made publicly available to the public. Because my understanding of this, after speaking to someone who's high up in the military, who I complained to and said, I believe your institution's targeting me, is they said to me that these assaults are illegal, and he admitted it to me, which makes me think that from what he said and the words he said, was basically that there probably is already legislation on some level and varying different levels. For example, torture is illegal, murder is illegal, harassment is illegal. We know that. And these things classify as them. But even specifically, I believe that there probably is legislation, even in the government, and in inner circles in military and intelligence, that this is illegal. It's just we don't know about in public. And so the distinction I'm trying to make here is that we need publicly acknowledged laws passed in this country that the public knows about this, the government knows about this, it's been exposed, and we have publicly available laws and acknowledged laws to protect innocent civilians in this country. And my idea is to get this discussed in Parliament and laws to be passed to protect, and for all of these measures, these safety measures, and this justice and compensation for TIs to be ball rolled and to eventually come to fruition. So that's the goal, and an independent inquiry could definitely be a part of that. I've actually contacted not just my local MP, who I got a little bit with somewhere, but eventually he wrote to someone else and then he came back saying the government views this as a conspiracy theorist. Well, of course they view it as a conspiracy theorist in theory. They don't want to kind of reveal this, do they? But anyway, my goal is also to get my local MPs in Leeds on board as a coalition and as a force to try and put pressure. But it's challenging, it's challenging. I'm not saying it's easy, but these are just some of the ideas that I have. I mean, the next one, so that was local, 10 Downing Street, people all writing into 10 Downing Street, and then the local protest one, including potentially even going to your town councils, your town meetings, and trying to get them to put pressure on the government. The last one, and actually the most important one, is just to give a little bit of a background, is when I come into this community and, I've tried to do things, and I know how to create and manifest my reality, and even still, almost like the wall of oppression in which I faced, and which I've noticed in terms of the level of responses that I've got, I thought would be more, because in any other situation in my life, I'm able to make things happen very, very quickly. But with this situation, it was like, it wasn't happening in the same way. I was getting all of these events and these situations which were playing out that were building to that, and that still is building that, it's getting bigger and bigger. But I wasn't getting almost kind of like the instantaneous results and the kind of the good, decent, encouraging results that I was wanting. And so I realized that I needed to take a step back and use all of the stuff that I'm actually using, but get it out there to the public. And so the most important campaign actually is what I call the prayer campaign, or the law of attraction campaign. Because what happens, just to give you a bit of explanation to people who may not have come across this before, is when these people are assaulting you, they're using electromagnetic frequencies, they're using energy, and they're basically using their energy to interact with your energy and manipulate your energy, because quantum physicists are starting to prove that at a quantum level, and just generally, that we're all energy, and that we live in one big quantum soup, we're all connected energetically. And so we're energetic beings, or electromagnetic beings, you could say as well. Same thing, essentially. So because we're energetic beings, then our thoughts are also energy as well. And so what we need to do is we need to counter that wall of oppression that's been put on that. The reason why so many TIs do something and then feel like they're not getting anywhere is because of that energetic wall of oppression. It's not just a physical thing, it's an energetic or spiritual thing, in terms of that we can't break through because they have us in a chokehold, essentially. They have us in what I would call an energetic chokehold. They're energetically oppressing us because they have so much control, and they're probably even able to attract it themselves, using some of the things that I'm about to talk to. But we need to counter that before things will really start moving. And the way that we do that is by prayer, or the law of attraction. And if we all join together to pray for freedom and all of these things, which I've got a long written out prayer as I've done as part of this campaign, if we all pray on that same prayer together, that's incredibly powerful, because as a collective consciousness, we will start to break through that wall of oppression, and then things will manifest. But until we've done that, it's like beating your head up against the wall. And I can actually promise and guarantee that this is exactly what is happening.
So, Mark, have you done anything yourself, or have you found any techniques yourself that's actually helped yourself while the campaigns are running?
So the law of attraction says that whatever we think, we bring into our reality. We bring that like thing into our reality. And so that essentially is the same as prayer, which says whatever you pray on, whatever you intend, then you also bring in energetically, and it manifests the physical thing, into your reality. And so my first bit of advice to any targeted individual would be to first start learning about personal development and start investing in personal development. There are plenty of books out there where you can read about how to empower yourself and make yourself the most powerful, effective, efficient, motivated, happy individual possible. The next thing would be to learn about the law of attraction and the power of prayer and how to manifest your reality. And the third thing would be to learn mindfulness, so that you become a much more aware individual, and you're less susceptible to attacks that are coming in, because you're just able to stay present and observe what's going on and not react to it, and stay strong and empowered and centered within that. So, and if every individual in the community was to invest in themselves, they would find, there may be some individuals out there who are struggling to even get into activism, or they can only get one post a day out because they're that much scared, that much in fear, and they just feel oppressed by it. If you empower yourself, you could improve your output over the years or even the months by 500%, by 1,000%, because all of a sudden you've broken through them barriers, you've broken through them negative limiting beliefs, you've broken through them fear barriers, and all of a sudden you're rolling, you have momentum.
So that's brilliant, Mark, with what you just mentioned. So just one of the things that I would want to ask, just from your opinion, there's an awful lot of people in this world that know TIs and they're not TIs. They're skeptical. They don't know what to do to help people. They don't know whether to believe them. So if you was to give advice to those people who are not TIs and got TIs in their community, what advice would you give?
That's a really great question, because I really went about it the wrong way. And so I can say what not to do. And I can also, as a result of that, through some negative experiences, say, what works a lot better. The first thing is not to panic. When I first had that realization, I'll admit I was like, my anxiety was through the roof, because I was getting all of these realizations. Hey, this is happening to me. I knew about some of it before, but I didn't know exactly, I didn't know who was doing it, or much about it as a technology. And so I was really kind of feeling like the anxiety was through the roof. And I went through a period where I really was getting attacked very hard. And sometimes this can happen when you're finding it out for the first time, because they're trying to make sure they program you and condition you in that initial moments not to speak out. And so I think, it's all about pacing yourself, and what I would say is that just be kind to yourself. Yes, take action, and yes, work through it. The only way is through. Avoidance isn't even an option. And the reason why I say that is because anything that you face, the fear will start to diminish. Anything that you avoid, and that keeps that fear real, or anything that you separate yourself from, it creates anxiety and fear because you've separated yourself from that. So my advice would be to find out as much as you can about the targeting process and about the weapons and about the symptoms. Look up targeted individuals' symptoms. I've actually got a really long list, which is I put together from various lists, because I found one that was really excellent. I'm going to be putting that on the Targeted UK website, but I can also maybe put a link underneath this send you a link, and then if you can put that on, then maybe some TIs who are just watching this for the first time might be able to look at that list. And I would say learn as much about the symptoms of it, as much about the technology and how it works and the way it influences your mind, and as much about the whole subject in general, and where the state of activism is at. What are the current sticking points, within the targeted communities globally and in your country? And once you've demystified that, then a huge chunk of that fear will go, and you'll start to feel that, hey, there is hope. At least I know the situation, and I know where we're up to as a community. I know where I'm up to as myself. I would also say in that period as well, if you can do any of the meditation and mindfulness techniques, in order to not really start going crazy and start going down the negative narratives that they would probably try and put upon you to control you, and not spiraling out fear in this initial stage. You have to do the best to stay grounded and centered. And so anything you can do to be kind to yourself, take breaks, take walks, take time to process and reflect, and or to just zone out and watch TV if you need to. But if you find out as much information as you can, then that's going to take a large chunk of that fear away, and then you're going to be in a much better position. I would also encourage not to tell your friends and family until you are able to at least communicate in a credible way. You start going to them going, hey, I'm receiving all these frequencies from the government. The government are doing it. Look at this tinfoil hat, and and if you start being too intense and putting that on them too strongly, they will freak out and they will react and say, no, that's not true, simply because they feel fear, not because they necessarily don't believe it, simply because they're feeling you push that on them. So I would introduce it very slowly and incrementally. And I would always start with a history of it and say, like MK Ultra abuses. It's very well widely documented. You can read about this incredible sites like Wikipedia. And, these abuses are not new. And there's something called Havana syndrome where these diplomats are that, and then maybe getting targeted remotely. But there are others who say this is happening to more people in society. There, you've created an opening. Next time, you might expand on that and say, "Oh, it's really interesting." You might even say that you're being targeted. You might say, "Oh, it's really interesting. I was doing a bit of research about this after I came across Havana syndrome, which is reported in all the mainstream media and has been officially recognised by 19 top scientists." Again, quoting facts, evidence-based, not like random wild opinions and theories and things which they're just going to So you might say, which has been acknowledged by the U.S. government and the Secretary of State, head of the CIA, and every single agency in America is now investigating this and putting warnings out to their staff. But I've also come across many whistleblowers who are saying this has happened to the public, including many doctors and professors of their scientific fields who've also either worked with these weapons publicly or have in-depth knowledge or insider knowledge, and then start quoting some, such as Dr. Robert Duncan, who used to work for the CIA, DOD, and DOJ, and actually was involved in making these weapons, and said that they are being used on civilians. Plus, I also came across over 100 patents that are actually filed, which pertain and show that these technologies actually exist. And then you might leave it for another day, and then you might come back to it. And you're always gouging the response from the people that you're doing it. If they're getting really on tense and off edge, and they start to say, "I don't believe it," you just kind of drop it and just kind of slide it out, and then maybe bring it back another time, when they're a bit of a better mood, or when you think that they're not in a fearful state, or whatever. You've got to be really clever and really sort of in tune with what the other person's thinking. And if you do it in that way, incrementally, and if you show them the evidence and you keep stating the evidence, at time, you will be using, I hate to say the conditioning on them, but effectively you will be slowly getting their nervous system used to that, where they'll be more willing to accept that because they won't be getting that fearful response. And then all of a sudden, they'll get that, if they've not had that already, they'll get that aha moment and go, "Hey, there's actually more to this than meets the eye. Maybe this is true." And then from there, you can work it even further. So I would say do that. I would also say learn a little bit about shielding techniques. If you're having a real nightmare, learn about some shielding techniques. Learn about personal development as well. What we were saying earlier, personal development is the most fundamental step because it's who you are as a person and the traits and the skills and the attitudes and the beliefs and of what you're bringing to the table. And the more that you're able to, like I say, increase that energy in your body through the healing techniques, meditation, tapping is another good one, acupuncture, acupressure, massage even, very good, reflexology, and many different things you can do to really keep the energy flowing and keep that health in the body alongside diet and exercise. Anything you can do like this will help you start to feel more relaxed, will keep you in a greater sense of health, and will also help you to fight back in a better way. So I think that's a really key analogy is in everything is energy, we are energy, and if we increase that energy through the various techniques which I'm going to be sharing, some of which I've shared in this video, then you're going to go a long way to increasing your efficiency and your output and living a happier, better life, even though this is happening to you. You can be in a 5 times better place, 3 times better place, 5 times better place, 3 times as effective, 5 times effective, perhaps even 10 or 20 times more effective. Because if you're being oppressed to the point where you can't even speak out or put a post on Twitter or Facebook, which is the degree to which some are being targeted or at least experiencing that, then you're not being effectual and you're not helping that fight. So we want to empower as many people as we can to get to that point through learning these techniques and investing in themselves over time. It's not an overnight cure, but it's worth the investment.
Well, that's great advice, Matt. That's really great advice. So that was Mark Williams, most probably one of our biggest activists and champions for dealing with the targeting situation in the United Kingdom. And it's been...
Sorry, I just want to jump in as well and just say that the actual name of the website is Targeted Individuals UK, and the web address is www.targetedsurvivors.com. We have a forum on there, so I would encourage people to get on the forum, maybe discuss some of the campaigns, any of the challenges that you're having, and let's bring that to life.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Mark. It's very, very much appreciated. And we look forward to seeing the information that you've been speaking about today on the website. So thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you very much, Dee. Thank you.